Well, Greece is keeping its creditors happy for now, but to stay in their good books, it's having to cut spending relentlessly. Now, to say Greeks would be fed up would be an understatement, but they're arguably angrier with the EU than even the British, who voted to leave the EU last month. Meanwhile, Greece continues to look east for support, as Charlotte Dubinsky reports.
It's the kind of welcome Greece hasn't had in a while. This was an important mission for Prime Minister Alexis Tspiras as he aimed to boost ties with China. As part of its bailout conditions, Greece has been selling assets. That includes a 67% stake in its largest port to the Chinese for around $400 million. And a new deal with e-commerce company Alibaba, opening up the market for Greek products to be bought in China. Tspiras is determined to keep one step ahead, securing more investment.
The Greek people have shown a great deal of endurance and patience, and the unpleasant scenarios of a possible Brexit are finally over. The Eurogroup's latest appraisal of Greece is positive, and that signals the beginning of a reduction of our national debt. Their decision makes us more trustworthy towards investors.
Though the country may have halted a possible Grexit for now, not all is rosy. The UK's decision to leave the EU leaves Greece still feeling the heat. Tourism is important to its economy, and there are fears the slide in the pound against the euro may affect holiday choices. Already, bookings are down compared to last year. Meanwhile, Tspiras has been candid about the future. Greece, he says, won't meet its surplus budget target when the current bailout programme ends in 2018. But EU support for Greece seems to be unwavering.
Greece has passed a significant hurdle and can now go down the right road. During this whole course, the European Commission will stand next to Greece.
In May, Greece received $8.4 billion from the Eurozone's bailout fund. But the Prime Minister knows that fresh pot of money won't stretch much further, especially at a time of turbulence in Europe caused by the outcome of the Brexit referendum in the UK. So China's hand in friendship and investment is more important than ever. Charlotte Dubinsky, TRT World.
Well, joining us now is Greece's Minister of Labour, George Katrougalos. Mr. Katrougalos, Minister, thank you very much for joining us again. The last time we spoke on our first programme here at Money Talks, the United Kingdom was still in the European Union. Now, what do you make of its exit, and does it make a Grexit more likely?
Well, nobody is speaking now about Grexit, but everybody is speaking and criticizing bad policies of the European Union. If you look at the statistics, although a majority of Greeks wants to remain in the European Union, a vast 79% of us believe that the economic policies followed by the European Union are wrong. And if you ask me, I think that the explanation for this disenchantment, not just of the British people, but practically, but all peoples in Europe, is easily explained by this policy of neoliberal inspiration that impoverishes the middle class, dismantle the social state without achieving any improvement, not just at the everyday life of citizens, but also in the overall economic performance of the country.
So why stay in the club then?
Because the European dream is a noble dream, a Europe without wars, without frontiers, and also a unique chance for economic integration, the biggest market in the world. But we want to remain in Europe in order to change it. We don't want a neoliberal Europe because clearly it does not work in favor of
but financially you're
people.
Really under pressure, aren't you? Your Prime Minister said a few days ago, Greece cannot keep going with the budget surplus demanded by the EU after 2018. The terms of the bailout are unbearable.
It is true that we cannot continue along this road for a long time. The deal that we have negotiated in July was relatively better than the one of the previous years. But we cannot go on with austerity as in the past. Our policy is exactly to reverse these, let's say, dominant policies in the European Union of austerity, of, let's say, priority of the banks over the needs of the people. But we cannot do it in a Greece isolated from the other countries. in order to have a social Greece, we must have a social Europe.
Okay, but Minister, the last time we spoke, you said that Greece was looking for some debt forgiveness. Now, if your European partners do not give you that, do you feel that the United Kingdom's Brexit has given you a stronger hand to play with in negotiations? I mean, the European Union, the last thing they want to see now is another country threatening to leave.
Of course, nobody wants the dissolution of the European Union. But after the last time we have spoken, we have already some signs that our partners understand that some kind of debt relief must happen. For instance, we have now a limitation of the money that we must give to our partners. This limitation is that they should not exceed 15% of our GDP, whereas in the past we have reached 23, even 30% of our GDP going there. We hope to improve this settlement, but it must be clear,
Okay.
The Greeks cannot pay anymore.
Okay, George Katrougalos, Labour Minister for Greece, thank you very much.